Welcome to the White Sox Recap Podcast. I am Ryan McGuffey. As we come down the stretch, that is correct, 6 weeks left in the Major League Baseball season. The White Sox have done one thing right. We know that. That is that they've won more than 41 games. We can call that a success, I guess, kind of, maybe. We're going to debate what is success in 2025 with the Chicago White Sox. What is failure? Has the 2025 season been a little bit of both? I got two of my guys, the best in the business, Brian Anderson and Jonathan Hood. The three of us are going to discuss these topics, the successes, the failures, a little bit of each in the 2025 White Sox. And of course, it's always brought to you by our friends at the Illinois Tollway. Quick time out to talk about something serious. We've all said it before. If only I had slowed down. The Illinois Tollway's new ad campaign is called If Only. And it's a powerful reminder that speeding doesn't just put you at risk. It affects everyone on the road. Every crash leaves someone wishing they'd done things differently. So take the extra time. Slow down. Save lives, including yours, depend on it. The 2025 Chicago White Sox, the Will Venable success. I'll call Will Venable a success. That and more with Brian Anderson, Jonathan Hood, and myself, Ryan McGuffey, on this edition of the White Sox Recap Podcast. And it starts right now. Hoodie, BA, always good to be with you both. The first time we've all been together in the same podcast, which that gets me excited and should get the fans excited in itself, boys. All right, so let's get right to it. Success, failure, both. I think the only way to answer this question, guys, is if to break it down into parts, because I think we will answer this question in a few weeks about what the whole season was in a little bit. I mean, I guess in theory, could they go on a 15-5 stretch in the next 20? Maybe. I don't think their bullpen can, because their bullpen sucks. And we're taping this after Tuesday night's completely inexplicable loss to the Atlanta Braves, which I said on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. It's an inexcusable loss. And I haven't said that about a White Sox game in quite some time. And I think it's fair to say inexcusable, because one huge failure, and I'm spraying all fields here out of the gate, is the bullpen. But I guess, Hoodie, I'll start with you. How do you define success, failure? The 2025 White Sox here is with 6 weeks to go.
Well, first of all, so good to be on the podcast. But secondly, I will not answer a question until your background has White Sox behind it.
Again, here we go
again with the, Jordan's fine, okay, we need you now. Now it's a Sox podcast. You son of a bitch, you just continue to just put Ernie Banks behind us. Let's have a Sox podcast with the Sox. Okay, that's fine. That's fine, but now we can't see you. Get over that now. Now it's a Sox podcast.
Get out of here, Cap.
Now,
for those of you watching, that was really good stuff. Yes.
No. You know what? Success for next year is a little bit of a sprinkle of Ishbia, meaning that that means that we're getting closer and closer to a new regime from an ownership standpoint. Once the debt is paid down, whatever the debt is over there at 35th and Beck, that means there'll be more money going to the ball club. So listen, I know that I'm disappointed in how the Sox played because of the bullpen, but I'm over it. You know why I'm over it is because some of those guys are either going to continue to be successful for the rest of the season to prove that they belong in the ball club next year, or they won't be here. So I know in the moment I'm like, how do you give up such a big lead? You have momentum, but maybe those guys are not here next year. And by the way, the guys that we're rooting for now may not be here next year because Ishbia is coming. So I can look at it from that standpoint, meaning there's going to be better players moving forward.
Like it. BA, what about you?
Well, first and foremost, I think we can all agree. Naturally, I'm always going to compare these newer White Sox teams. I can only compare to the ones I played on, right? So naturally, it's a little frustrating. Anytime you're on pace to lose over 100 games, you stick, period, moving on. But to Hoodie's point, he's absolutely right, man. There might be a change in the regime here soon, but every single game from this point forward is a tryout. And if unless you're one of those key 3 or 4 guys that are kind of quote unquote untouchable and they don't want to move them because they're cornerstone, they're key pieces moving forward, it's a tryout. and you better go out there every single day and improve yourself over and over again, because at the end of the year, going into spring training, going into winter meetings, Getsy, Venable, the rest of the staff, Katsy, they're all going to sit down and they go, can this guy help us next year? And if he can't, let's go get someone else who can. But as you get closer to that Ishbia regime change, and there's going to be some more dollars allocated to free agency, I just hate to burst Guff's bubble, man. Every time they're like, we always joke around like, are they going to sign this guy for 3 year for 30? And we're like, think about what we just said. 3 year for 30. That's like that's a Kike Hernandez contract, man. Like, which I'd love to go get that guy. But yeah, I mean, I think I always look, it's like, is the season a failure? I don't know, man. Like, I just look like, yeah, if we would have lost 100 games, my ass would have been back in Charlotte. Konerko would have been in free agency. Jermaine would have got sent somewhere else. So I always think like, yeah, it's nice for the key players here and there, but when you stink, you stink.
Look, they're on pace to win 58 games as we tape this. So that's a 17-game improvement. Like 98% of the time, that's a Manager of the Year award. I mean, 17-game improvement is pretty incredible. And even when I put that in the old calculator to say 58 and 104, I'm like, it doesn't feel bad, which sucks, by the way. That sucks for a White Sox fan to actually get complacent and say, that's okay. Like, now what? And I'm done with that crap. Like, that's why I think that's why this is a little bit of both. Hootie started it with one of the things I have on my list here. The Ishbia announcement it might be the most successful part of the entire season, is that there actually is a plan for a change in 2029. And you can say whatever you want as a fan going, 2029, that's ridiculous. That's, at least there's a timeline. At least there's actually a date. And I'd find it pretty incredible if it didn't get done. I mean, it seems like if you read the actual agreement, it feels very much as if it will happen then. I'm okay with that. So let's table that. That's a huge success because it feels like forever and always the Knuckles were so white into gripping onto this thing and never letting go, and the possibility of it letting go. To announce that publicly in a season is a big deal. I do think Will Venable, I said that in the tease to start this thing, I think Will Venable, to me, has looked like the right guy. He has control of a clubhouse. That should not be the only qualifier here, because the guy before him did not, with crazy-ass acronyms and things that didn't make sense and people who didn't respect him. But this guy's respected in the clubhouse. And I think the way, and I'm going to fast forward it a little bit, the way Chris Getz has also run the farm system to the big leagues, as this group collectively seems to have a voice together, which did not feel that way before. I mean, Kenny and Rick were at odds the entire time. Kenny had the ability to make trades with two organizations without Rick having any input at all. That alone is so asinine and backwards that it makes me want to puke. But this feels like top to bottom, to farm director, all the way down to rookie ball, Kannapolis, etc., that the voice is the same. And guys playing way down there, guys who are getting drafted right now, see a path. They actually see the clear path to the big leagues. And the success, that to me is a success. We can sit here and nitpick slash lines all we want. And, you know, Hootie and I love Chase Mydroff, maybe more than any other player, maybe more than any two people who are White Sox fans. But there's been a lot to like about a lot of these players. I love Kyle Teal. I said that, you know, after the last two games in Atlanta. I'm actually starting to envision the idea that Kyle Teal and Braden Montgomery could be really good. Like, I can actually go there. Whereas before was, man, I hope these guys make it. And yes, there's a lot left to go in development, but at least, you know, Hootie, when I think about what it looks like, I can actually write it on a one sheet for you and say, hey, look, here's what the plan is. Here's how it's been defined thus far. And it feels like this going forward.
You know what, BA, when you are a young player, you know what the record is. Everyone knows what the record is. You're 45 and 81. You're in last place. You're not a playoff team. But I wonder how some of the young players feel from the minor leagues, and they come up to the big leagues and they're like, wow, look at this spread. Look at this plane. I feel like I've made it. And I feel like the pressure is off. Like, does Kyle Teal look over his shoulder and go, "Oh, I'm not so sure," or Vargas, or Cuero, or Mydroth, or Baldwin? I just feel like these guys are playing loose and free. Give Will Venable credit. He's not saying we're going to bring you up and down, from the minor leagues to the major league system. We're going to put you in a position where you can work on your craft and succeed. I love it, Guff, personally, because look, we know what it is, but when I see a slash line from Teal, like 312, 354, 519, 4 homers and 12 RBIs, man, can I bottle that for next year? So that way you don't have to look over your shoulder. So, Vargas, you don't have to look over Cuero, Mydroth, all these guys don't have to look over your shoulder. This is your job, unless you completely Andrew Vaughn it. You can be able to be in your position, and you could stay. And I love them learning on the job and succeeding at the same time. That's the key.
For those of you wondering where BA went that were watching or who are listening to, there he's coming back on. I don't think BA agreed with you at all. And so he just bailed out of this. But no, it's too bad. That's not how it works, BA. You don't get, if you disagree with that, you're entitled to do whatever the hell you want. You don't like something, you can leave, I guess. No.
Hey, I went outside, man. Something was going on in my house. I just David Kaplan it. I rolled in there, yanked the cord out, said start fresh tomorrow. So go ahead. Repeat that, please.
All I'm saying, BA, is that when you're a young player, you realize that you're not going to go down to the minor leagues. I feel like the pressure's off. I just feel like, hey, you're not going to be on the buses anymore. You're in the big leagues, and you know what the record is. You're 45-81, but you feel like if you're Teal or Vargas or Mydroth or Baldwin, some of these guys, you're like, man, I'm getting time to play. I can make mistakes, and I'm not going to get yanked. I'm going to be there's accountability, sure, but I feel like I can stay with the ball club. So I feel like the pressure's off in some ways, and the guys are playing free and easy.
Yeah, I mean, but now with that said, you're absolutely spot on. But with that said, there's a bit of complacency there too that could creep up on you. Now, the counterpoint is this: I remember being in from like single or high A with like Ryan Sweeney and Rogo and all those guys, all the way up to like AAA. Like, it is human nature. It's the nature of the beast. It's not an attack on the big leaguers. But as a minor leaguer, you're like, I could fucking do that. Like, I could go up there and hit 200. So for every one of those guys that might be saying, oh, the pressure's off, there's 10 guys in AA. Like Brain Montgomery right now is going out there being like, I dare one of those guys to falter out in center field, left field, right field, because he's a hamstring away from the big leagues. I mean, he can flat out play, man. I've seen this kid since he was 18. He's unbelievable. Yeah,
but the difference is, I think what Hoodie had to say there about looking over your shoulder, because BA, you had to look over your shoulder. Every single guy in your era.
Single game?
Yes, every single game. Not only did you have to replace Aaron Rowan, which was a challenge in itself, following a World Series title, which no one in Chicago had ever seen in 200 flipping years combined. You had those voices behind you saying, "Where are Rowan?" And then everybody, including the organization, wondering, are you capable enough and who's next? I think that's a great point that you make, Hoodie, because there has been so much rearview mirror action in every guy that's come up here in the past. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear, and it's happened with the development of White Sox baseball the last 20 plus seasons, maybe even 30 seasons. And right now, they're telling Edgar Carroll, be the catcher. Yeah, we got Kyle Teal too, because you both are really good and you can't catch 162, nor can you. And you guys, we'll find a way. It'll work. We'll find a way. Miguel Vargas, you do your thing. You got to figure it out. But more so the rookies that they've either drafted or acquired, they have really the Colson Montgomery story, the instantaneous success we've seen of it. I think the long-term 30,000-foot view, 7, 8, 10 years from now could be really awesome. I mean, the White Sox could, it's a copycat league regardless of sport. If this works with Colson Montgomery, I guarantee you organizations are going to start taking timeouts in the minor leagues with guys and, hey, go down to our spring facility. Let's take a mental rest. That was such a massive philosophical change for anything White Sox baseball. And I've told Getz that. I mean, Getz is an insular hire. He was very much a White Sox hire when he got that job, but he has not necessarily done things the exact same way as before. Has it equated to contention or a great record? Hell no. are my expectations different in 2026 because of what I've seen in 2025? You bet your ass they are. They absolutely are, because they're 17-25 since June 30th. And it's not that much of, it's not a small sample size anymore. That's a third of a season. And I like what it feels like the rope is officially in the clubhouse and everyone's on board. And if you're not, there are changes coming. You guys said it to start this podcast, that there are guys playing for jobs. There are guys playing for competition. There are guys playing to stay in Major League Baseball, because I thought at the beginning of the year, there were multiple guys on the White Sox roster who would not be on the big leagues in any other team. I still feel that way. And there are guys sitting there looking around going, this might be my last call. I got to do something about it, because their expectations for me are different than maybe they were at the beginning of the year too. So that part is a success.
Yeah, and then from there, BA, think about this. You and I are in the front office, and we're pretty much co-GMs, because that's kind of how it was, the dynamic with Hahn and Williams. That would stink for us to be able to be battling, fighting back and forth about, no, I want to call this guy up. No, I want to call this guy up. I don't want to make this trade. And then you overrule me. At least what Guff said makes a lot of sense. It's Getz's show. So now you finally have front office peace with the White Sox for the first time in 15 years, 20 years, where it's just one guy. So at least with Getz, and I'll say this about Chris too. I don't know if it's been brought up enough, but I should say it. I'm actually more impressed with the minor league system now than when Getz was running it.
Yep.
It's like
about that.
Because we were middle of the pack or toward the bottom, and we're like, Chris, do we have any kids? Now, maybe some of this was Hahn, some of this was Williams, but I'm actually more impressed with the kids they're bringing up, including Hagen Smith, who I watched at Arkansas. Already 7 strikeouts per game. Was it a strikeout rate of 34%? That's pretty good. So I look forward to seeing that kid. So I'm really into the kids that he has now as a GM more than when he was running the minor league system. That's a good thing.
No, it's incredible. I'll tell you what, and I know Guff saw it a lot too. We all did. You could see it was noticeable on Rick Hahn's face. You could see the frustration as he walked around the clubhouse, as he walked through the media areas. You could tell, I'm a GM in name, and Rick Hahn is a wonderful baseball mind, but that whole, like, Rick Hahn's the GM, but Kenny's still up here, like, having to get his approval. I mean, again, you can't run a household, let alone a Major League Baseball team, if every decision you make is going to go checked, and then every decision that he makes goes unchecked. So you're absolutely right, Hoodie. Those guys like Rick Hahn, I don't like to point the finger. I know Guff is like, screw that group, like they did. He gets frustrated with them, but you could tell, like, it was as a whole, as an organization, that was not a great setup. But Getzy having free reign to do whatever he wants, except for spend a ton of money in free agency. I know he has to get the approval there, but it'll be interesting to see what they do this offseason. I'd love to see the $100 million contract. Will we? Probably not.
No, it's not coming this offseason, but he did sit in this seat right here, and I asked him directly that question, and he said in his tenure, yes, he will. Hey, I'm not poop. The last regime is to me, where my problem resides. It's Kenny. The fact that I got under his skin because I, God forbid, said the VP of baseball operations is in charge of the roster like it is in every other 29 cities, and that pissed him off, and that he had to seek me out to tell me that he's still in charge. That story is public. I don't need to retell it here. That's a problem. When your ego is that fragile that you need to find Ryan McGladry, who you don't even flipping know. That's what where's Ryan McGladry? He's so fragile. And the whole thing was fragile, that if he was that fragile, I called him puffy chested Kenny at the end, because you never saw him unless the White Sox had won 8 of 10, unless they were on a 6 in a row. You didn't see him when they went 2-8 or they had lost 11 of 15. It was only all of a sudden, I know what's going on. The Sox are hot. Or they're all of a sudden from 6 games back to a game back. Chris has been visible. That dude had to wear it, and it will always have to wear 41 and 121. And I don't know. People listening to this are probably like, man, Guff and Getz are tight, blah, blah, blah. There's failures here. The bullpen was a failure. How they addressed the bullpen in 2025 was an effing failure. It's an F, because they should have found an Adrian Hauser type to be in the back end. because you screwed your young guys trying to figure out who they were. You guys know, covering the game and playing the game BA, guys like definition. They want to find roles. So when you're 7th, 8th, and 9th guy, and you come to the ballpark, you know if you're going to pitch, it's going to be in leverage or even a mop-up. You're going to be in the 7th, 8th, or 9th. And they needed a guy, at least, even if he was flipped, some guy with experience that had 50, 80, 100 career saves to do it, because you signed Mike Clevenger to do it, and it flopped in your face immediately. And now in August, in the dog days, when you have guys that are tired, that are sore, and that are in between, they have no idea, like, they are out of gas as they try to. You can't blow a 6-run lead. I don't care if you're the Colorado Rockies, the Chicago White Sox, etc. There's really no excuse for it. But you're calling up guys every single day. Owen White, Elvis. I mean, you're calling up no-name guys who don't have the ability to do this. And I think the way that was handled really screwed your starters and screwed your back-end guys, and quite frankly, screwed your team out of some wins, because they should have 50 to 52 wins right now. But the way the bullpen was configured, and this is not Ethan Katz, because he's done such a great job with guys like Vassell and et cetera, they really put them in a really no-win situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. As a Sox fan, I want to see the team be better and be able to build on bullpen guys too. But I have to come to a realization that we're in a rebuild. Guys, we're in a rebuild. And so remember where we came from. Just remember 41 and 121, guys that should have been out of baseball, or guys that would never be on your fantasy team. They would just be sitting there on the roster. You'd never pick them up for any reason whatsoever, because they are just ineffective, not productive. And so I just think, as much as I was disappointed in that Braves game the other day, I just know that there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. My bigger concern is when the White Sox start to get better, guys, that means that the starting rotation has to look better. When I know the Sox are serious, that's when I know that the starting rotation will start getting better. With Smith, who just got 100 strikeouts in his career, with Perez, with Savale, with Martin, Gomez has been a real find for a couple of starts for the White Sox. At some point when the Sox are good, I'll know it when you start putting money into the starting rotation. That's when you'll tell, because then you can clearly define who are your starters and the guys you can depend on, because you got to start building toward that. If you feel good about your offensive players and the kids that are growing up, that's great. But nothing begins with the White Sox until you're able to have pitching that you can depend on. The relievers, a lot of those guys won't be around when the Sox contend. I get it.
No.
But I hope that a couple of these guys can say, yeah, I'm good enough to stick around, especially for the sweetheart deals. You're not paying through the nose for these guys. These guys are just guys that's on the middle to the bottom shelf that you hope that can be top shelf guys at some point.
Hey, Hoodie, man, it's crazy to hear us talk about this, because, again, it's so foreign to me. I was never, ever a part of a rebuild, right? Like, every single year from 05 on to 09 when I got traded, we were supposed to be in contention. 07 probably being our worst year, maybe 06 slightly there. But, my gosh, man, like, Guff and I have been talking the entire offseason. It's like all we were talking about, when are the White Sox are going to develop a front line, a high draft pick, or develop in the minor league system a premier offensive guy, right? So now we have some offense, and here we are shifting back to the pitching side. But it's got to be a well-oiled machine. It's got to be legit on both sides of the ball. So to both of our points, or all three of us, it's like, man, here you have, like Hoodie said, light at the end of the tunnel. You have this core group of guys. Like, here we go. It's like, this is the time now, the offseason, where you go, we need to go get 3 or 4 arms, 2 that can be in the bullpen that are like, that's our Dustin Hermanson, right? That's our veteran guy that could come in. He's not flashy, throws 92, but gets outs, right? Like the David Riskies of the world, or a Matt Thornton, a lefty that throws gas, right? You got to go get some guys that can come in and just get freaking outs.
Man,
I love those names. I just, because you know what BA's talking about? Just glue guys with grit. Guys will just get the ball every day. Again, if it's an inning, he's going to give you a good damn inning. If it's 2 innings, that's what you want. And you got to figure out who those guys are. I mean, some of those guys that come through free agency, but some of those guys you like to build through your own system and say, I need 2 innings from you.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to need a solid inning from you, and just figure out who those guys are.
And they might be in your current rotation, by the way. Jonathan Cannon might be better suited for 7th inning lockdown leverage guy. I'm being dead serious about that. So to your point about when you look at the rotation, I want to at least see on every fifth day, I do want to see a stopper. Maybe it's not Garrett Crochet, but I want to feel like it is. And we talked about that last week on the podcast that to me, 2025 can be labeled a success months from now. If you say you've seen enough on the major league level from that core group of young guys that are going to be with you going forward, that you can start investing in the major league roster. And I'm not talking about record contracts here. Okay. But I am talking, we named some guys. Like I'd like to see like Hoodie. To me, Andrew Benintendi, not his fault that he got 5 for 75, literally not his fault, but I would shake his hand and say, you've been a great ambassador for this organization. It just hasn't worked here. And if we can't find a trade partner where we'd eat most of the money, we are going to shake your hand and say it didn't work out and swallow the loss and figure out somebody else to put out there. A Mullins type, not a Michael A. Taylor type, a guy that can have power and been part of successful rebuilds like Baltimore, and another starting pitcher. I don't really want sign and flip and 42-year-old Charlie Morton's because Charlie Morton's going to be able to go to a contender or whatever. I want like young guys who are still in their lower 30s, who are still really good options that maybe are like 3 for 39 types, and that you're not afraid to commit past 2027 and be scared of the lockout, et cetera, because you're building something here that post-lockout is super tangible and like, holy shit, this team has already shown you they're on the come, and they've already invested in certain types to say, when we come out of this, now we're ready to go. And I don't want them to play scared and sit on their hands. It's certainly, from PTSD, my biggest concern is that they're still going to fall into the old way, even though the new way feels different. So that's why I'm saying it's still like, I don't think I can label the success or failure of the season as a whole today. And we shouldn't be able to do that with 6 weeks left. But there are certain things trending towards success. Chris said they're going to spend money, Hoodie. I know what that means. Okay. You say it because the fans go, ooh, but Kyle Tucker's not walking through that door. He might have priced himself down a little bit, but he's still not walking through that White Sox door. I think you're still going to have to play. Maybe I'd like to hear long-winded way of saying, stop shopping in the dollar bin and look at value plays that could actually help what you're trying to do and take you to the next level. No more 100-loss seasons. It needs to be more like 70 and 92 at least for me to feel like there's validation here.
Yeah, BA's looking for some David Ardsmar, some Nick Massett.
Oh, hey, come on now. There we go.
Some glue.
White Sox garage sale. White Sox garage sale.
He's looking for some guys with a little grit. A Mike McDougal, if you will.
A Boone Logan, baby. Where the heck
Boone
is
Logan.
Boone Logan?
Oh, Boone Logan.
That's what
My goodness.
For. An Andy Cisco. He's looking for
everyone,
some.
Hey, Hoodie, everyone. No one appreciates Matt Thornton until there's no more Matt Thorntons. Like, we're like,
true. I think
the
he's
easiest 99 miles an hour you've ever seen it.
No, he was. Man, I also think that BA is looking for some Wi-Fi because his Wi-Fi's been it's been a little troubled on the podcast.
I'm sorry, guys.
You know what? But you make a good still picture, though. You know what? It's a good profile. At least you're not looking crazy.
You just changed your profile pic on X with a CHSN. I mean, come on, don't forget where the bread's buttered here,
You know what,
guys? I'm sorry.
You know what? We talk about Benintendi. I want to give Luis Robert his flowers. Okay.
Wow.
Maybe my opinion
You can
changes
give him flowers.
In a couple weeks. Well, I mean, in the Atlanta series, we're watching a guy busting his ass and respecting 90.
Fair.
You see that? So like when a guy like that, knowing that the Sox are out of it, he easily could just be like, you know what? I'm rolling over the short, roll over the third.
But why is that? Why is that, Hoodie? Because they've already committed to him. And verbally, they've committed to him in 2026. So to your point, yeah, he's like, don't matter, I'm back. But why is that?
I think that when he's healthy, he cares. But that really is the byproduct of the Grafal White Sox, the La Russa Grafal White Sox. When they were healthy, they were effective. But when they're not healthy, it's roll over the third, roll over the short. I'll just jog down to first base.
And your manager let you. And your manager allowed it. That's what I'm saying. Will Venable's not allowing it. He won't be on the field.
I mean, he was getting down the line. And I know people listening is like, well, that's his job. No, some guys get frustrated and say,
Kyle Tucker didn't do it.
The line. So, but he did. But he did. So I just out of everything that we're going through this season, I just want to give Luis Robert his flowers. A guy that probably shouldn't be with the ball club, probably should have been traded. Of course, you and I are on the same page with that, Ryan, because it's a new day for the White Sox. I don't know how Robert fits, but at least from his going down the line and giving you some professional at bats, he's showing the young guys like, I shouldn't be here, but I'm going to show you the way I do it.
Okay. So, Guff, what do you think? So, in a nutshell, for us three to be on this panel, what we're all saying is a few things. It's like every day's a tryout. There's no pressure. The pressure's been taken off. You're going to lose 100 games probably. Like, so there's every day is a tryout. Go let it rip. But they have got to go spend some money in the offseason to at least let the fans know, like, guys, come on, man, we're trying. We're not just going to have the same problem every single freaking year.
Yeah, which is why I think we're all answering this question as both. I think it's been both a success and certain parts feel like I would say, Hoodie, I'll give Robert a flower, singular. Okay. I'll give him a flower because part of me wants to label like the fact that Luis Robert's still here as a failure, more so on his part than the organization's part, because I think the idea, how they handled it was right. But the guy came out of the gate and flopped on his face and then was on the IL. And it was like he showed more of who he's been the entire time. But it also kind of hamstrung and tied the hands of Chris Getz and company into this.
All right, well, both things can be true.
Yeah,
it was a failure by Getz, just kind of like on the north side, the same thing, where you thought, no, we'll just stand pat, or no, that's too rich for my blood. They could have made a deal for Robert. They just didn't want pennies on the dollar in return. Okay, great. But at the same time, again, on the player, I wish he would have been more healthy and be more available, because that's the whole key, to be available for him and Moncada and for our left fielder that kept falling into the net. Eloy Jimenez,
he's gone. He's out of baseball.
Timmy's out of baseball. Tim Anderson's out of baseball.
So
I wish that group was able to stay healthy to show exactly what they could do. But I was just saying, like, in that case, Guff, both things are true. Should have been traded, and also not being able to pay dividends for the White Sox.
And I think, before you answer, the Andrew Vaughn thing feels like a fail. That's an organizational fail and a player fail, because I think there should be like some accountability on Andrew Vaughn. Like, I've heard some stuff. I love the guy, like as nice of a dude as you can. I've heard some stuff that, there wasn't some, at times the work wasn't being put in. I don't want to shit on Andrew Vaughn, who's having a great turnaround story for the Milwaukee Brewers. People can blame Getz all they want. I thought when he made that move, it was actually a quality GM strike. He heard that there was a veteran starter available. Once he was sent down to AAA, that was the beginning of the end, and he made a move, and the guy took off. So whatever's going on with the Brewers, fresh start, whatever, that's an organizational fail that goes way back to the last regime and how they handled a guy playing two first basemen in right field, Gavin Sheets and Andrew Vaughn, and ruining their legs because they didn't have a right fielder, and they failed to address right field year after year after year after year and kept plugging and playing two guys who shouldn't have been playing there in the first place. So that one to me is just an incomplete and an F all around.
Hey, it's been fun watching Savali pitch, so I'll tell you that. But you know what? You're absolutely right. There's got to be some accountability. I wish I was never fortunate enough for the White Sox to go, you know what, Brian? You struggled last year and the year before, but we're going to give you $5 million more, and we want you to try so hard this year and do your very best. Yeah, but I think we spoke earlier in the year. We saw Andrew Vaughn tweaking his swing, and we're going, man, they are grasping at straws, because he is a crouched down, short, compact hitter. And man, when they had him standing up all kind of coiled in and changing his swing, I knew right then and there, man, it's over, because they're trying too many different things and going away from what he's good at, and that's a short, compact swing.
Yeah, he's frustrating. I mean, Sox sit in the middle. Here are the series remaining as we tape this. I'm not going to go in order. I'm going to give you their toughest opponents, their easiest opponents. They have the 16th ranked strength of schedule. So they're right in the middle of the pack, basically 500. Detroit, San Diego, Yankees, Royals, Cleveland. That feels tough. Washington, Atlanta, Twins, Orioles, Tampa Bay. I don't think wins and losses matter at this point. I do think how they win and lose matters. I'm glad to see how they've turned it around in Atlanta after what looked like here we go again in Kansas City, that all that 10-4 out of the break quickly was erased. The fact that they've turned it around, because old White Sox the last few years, bye-bye. That would have just been like the start of the spiral would have been 8, 9, 10 in a row, 12 of 15, 18 of 23. And I feel like at least that looks different, guys, as we put a bow on this.
Yeah, they're a watchable product. They were not watchable last year. But here's the blessing is that we've got young guys that'll be watching for quite some time in the organization. Again, hats off to Getz for that. It's a watchable product. I can sit down and look, I see the mistakes, especially from a pitching standpoint, that I'm not happy with from time to time. But you know what? Yep. Offensively, they scrape. Look, since the All-Star break, this ball club is second in home runs in the big leagues. They're fourth in runs per game. They're fourth in OPS. They're fifth in slugging. They're sixth in a number of other categories. But I guess the bottom line is that knowing that they're no good as far as them being a playoff team, the thing that I can take solace in is that the young guys are trying. They're not just scuffling. They're trying. And if someone doesn't come through, someone else will pick up the slack. We're not going to win a lot of ball games out of that schedule you gave, but we're going to get some honest at-bats,
Yeah. Hey, man, everyone on the show, we've identified the needs, right? The needs are obvious, but we spoke, Guff, in the offseason. It's like there's one thing you can get away with the White Sox fans, and obviously if they're not spending the money, they'll harp on the ownership and the executives and all that shit. But if you're playing the game hard and you're making adjustments and the energy's there and the effort's there, you will buy yourself a hell of a lot more time than if you just go out there and Eloy Jimenez it and have like a calf injury every other game or not hustle for a ground ball or something like that. So again, like you could buy yourself a hell of a lot more time. You can lose 100 games as long as they're taking steps and there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Jonathan Hood just did a wardrobe change in the middle or at the end of the show here into a Milwaukee Brewers hat. And I think plenty of people there's a standing ovation, whether people are driving and listening to their car, they're watching it at home on YouTube, that the first place Milwaukee Brewers, it was my favorite thing about realignment is that I liked the Brewers too much to be playing against the White Sox. BA, this is so much before your time. When you had to go, when County Stadium hosted White Sox.
I remember with Robin Yount and Paul Molitor. I know what time it is.
County Stadium, White Sox Brewers games. It was like $2 beers and three or four fights. I mean, it was that. Now we can like the Brewers because they don't match up against the White. Well, they do, but it's in a different league and they're beating up on the Cubs. So I appreciate the wardrobe change, Hoodie.
You could always say I'm a man of many hats, and I certainly am. Thank you very much. And by the way, next podcast, we got to talk about this goofy Rob Manfred.
Oh, yeah.
Commissioner. So you really want to have blood in the streets by having 18, 19 Cubs and Sox games. You really want that in realignment?
It's not his blood. So, yeah, he's going to be – he drinks different kind of bourbon than we do. So,
okay. I just know our police force works really hard. Could you imagine how hard they got to work in 18, 19 dates, Cubs versus Sox? Are you kidding me?
And then you got to then you got to include the Illinois Tollway, our proud partners here, because if you had the Illinois Tollway, I guarantee you they have thoughts about 19 White Sox Cubs games a year. It's called If Only. Powerful reminder that speeding doesn't just put you at risk; it affects everyone on the road. Road rage and crosstown do not mix. I can tell you that. Every crash leaves someone wishing they had done things differently. Take the extra time, slow down, save lives. Lives, including yours, depend on it. One last thing before we go here, guys. Jonathan Hood and David Kaplan, 6 to 9 a.m. starting September 2nd. New football season, new time slots, Hoodie. Congrats, my friend. Good. I like the fact that you guys are up and at 'em and in people's cars when they're ready to rock and roll, because I know there's going to be just a little bit of passion coming from these Bears games.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I know Cap is excited to be up and ready to go at 6 a.m. It's been a long time coming for ESPN 1000 to have a true morning show at a true morning show time slot. So obviously for Bears season, the wrap up for baseball season to start at 6 a.m. while people are, gripping their steering wheel, pissed at the traffic, at least we'll be there for them to keep them company, get their minds off their troubles starting at 6 a.m. So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
I know I'm listening.
Absolutely. Happy 5th anniversary. I couldn't believe 5 years already of Cap and Hoodie. It's pretty incredible. Hopefully we're blessed to have a 5th year anniversary down the line. You guys are the best. This is really good stuff. I think we're defining it. We're not putting a complete definition of 2025, but I think we have a little bit of both in the 40 minutes. The Brewers making their case for a White Sox recap podcast appearance yet again. We have to get a Milwaukee sponsor just to throw in here for the White Sox recap podcast. For Brian Anderson, for Jonathan Hood, I'm Ryan McGuffey. Appreciate you watching here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, click that notification bell every time we drop a new episode. You get the notifications so you won't miss us. And if you're listening on audio forms, we're always there for you, Apple, Spotify, elsewhere. This has been the White Sox Recap Podcast. Appreciate you watching, appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time.
That's my crew.